Welcome to Alive and Well, the podcast for the new era of high achievers. You're done burning out, and you're ready to lead, work, and live in a rhythm that honors both your brilliance and your body. I'm your host, Michelle Grosser. I'm a trial attorney turned nervous system strategist, and I've lived the burnout story. I know what it's like to chase your goals at the expense of your well-being. And I also know it doesn't have to be that way. Here, we're redefining success. It's where productivity feels peaceful, boundaries feel like freedom, and energy comes from within. Each week, I'll share practical tools for nervous system regulation, time mastery, and somatic strategies so you can show up with clarity, calm, and confidence in every part of your life. Because you, my friend, were given a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So here's to life and living it fully. This is the path to feeling alive and well. Let's dive in. Hey, you're listening to Alive and Well. Welcome back to the podcast. It's Michelle here. Today we're gonna do some time travel. I wanted to talk about some things that I would do differently or would have done differently had I known now what I didn't know then. And I'm talking about that time in my life where I transitioned from being a working, married, but childless woman, really excited about her career, and then having kids and not really realizing how much that would change everything. And then just really having not a lot of understanding about the nervous system, right? We're talking 8-9 years ago before I really started getting into this work. There were so many things with the way that I approached my work, the mindsets that I held that frankly were not healthy and ultimately led me to a really deep state of burnout. But then the work I'm doing now, right? So, hindsight is 2020, but the truth is that I'm really grateful for all of it. But we grow wiser as we gain experience, life experience. And I just wanted to share some of that with you guys today, because knowing what I now know about ambition and the nervous system and sustainable success, I would do it differently, very differently. And I really truly don't say that with regret, but I just say it with this grateful clarity, because I certainly don't regret being ambitious. I still consider myself to be quite ambitious. I don't regret building something meaningful. I don't regret wanting to be excellent, but I do regret some of the ways that I went about doing it. And it's not a regret like being critical or beating myself up about it. But I just would have done it differently, right? I didn't know. So some of the things I think that I regret or would have done differently, however you want to phrase it, was that, I think so much of what I was actually doing was trying to earn my worth through what I could perform, right? Through what I could achieve, through my output, through what I could create, how productive I was. I thought that to be really successful, I was going to have to override a lot, or not even override, but I think in the time I thought I was convincing myself that I actually liked certain things, or that certain things were good or successful, or, that it meant I was hardworking, when actually there was a whole lot of self-abandonment and suppression and repression and denial going on, and disconnection. I think I wasn't even really connected to the things that I was passionate about or that lit me up. I just thought you had to work hard and that's how you made it, right? And then I think I just really overrode so many of my body's cues and signals. And I did that over and over and over again and thought I would somehow escape the cost. But if you're a high achiever listening to this, especially if you're a working mom, part of this probably already resonates because, like me, you are capable and you're super smart and you're resilient and you're committed. And at the same time, and I'll speak for myself, and maybe this is true for you too, in all of that, something felt off, right? Something felt unsustainable. Like at some point, this was just going to crack wide open and it wasn't going to be good. And my body had been whispering for so long, like, you're pushing too hard. There has to be another way. So what I want to do today is I just want to share what I wish someone had taught me or told me years ago, what I would go back and teach my younger self, a younger version of myself, than the lawyer and the new mom, the woman desperately trying to do it all and hold it all. So I kind of broke it down into 5 things that I would have done differently if I were to start my career over again. And when I think back to my years, so when I left law school, my first job was working for a really big insurance defense firm, or that's the work that I did, insurance defense anyway, in Miami. And we had 13 offices throughout the state of Florida and the Southeast. And the practice was growing, and I really liked it at the time. And I was there for 3 years, and I worked with partners who really let me get my hands dirty. And I did depositions, and I went to court all the time, and I was able to actually do legal work and not just be one of those associates who copies papers and, gets people's coffee drinks. So I'm really grateful for that. And then after 3 years, I think in a part, this is how I tend to operate, a little bit of naivety and a lot of boldness. I was like, I can do this. And I started my own law practice. And that was 11 years ago. That was in 2014. So I was a couple years into my law practice, 3 years into my law practice, and Amory was born. And then Ashton was born 16 months later. And I can still feel the pace of all of that in my body. Like, I remember back in those days, I thought that success meant, especially as the leader and owner of a law firm, that I was going to be the first one in and I was going to be the last one out, right? I thought that productivity was measured in how many checks or how many things got crossed off my to-do list and how many hours I worked and how much I did and how fast I could do it and how much I was hustling. And I thought that motherhood was something that I could just like fold into the margins, right? And because I could physically do it, I was capable. I assumed that I should. And I completely disregarded my capacity. And we've been talking about this a little bit, the difference between our capabilities and our capacity. And that's what us high capacity women do. We figure it out. We carry it all. We make it look easy until we don't, right? And back then, I didn't have the language. I didn't understand the cues. I just didn't see it for burnout. I didn't understand the invisible load. I felt it, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the allostatic load, which is the weight of all of the cumulative stress that we hold in our bodies. I didn't understand cortisol cycles. I didn't understand stress physiology. I didn't understand emotional labor. I didn't even understand what it meant to be dysregulated. I thought that's just how life was. Life is stressful, running a business and having kids. That's what it does to my body. That's just life. I've just got to deal with it. I knew it didn't feel good, but I didn't understand that, like, what was going on in my body and that there was another option available to me. Because here's the thing. Ambition doesn't burn us out, right? I'm still ambitious as heck. Like, ask my husband. He's always like looking at me with a side eye, like, really? You're going to do that? I'm like, yep. I'm still ambitious. That's not what burned me out. What burnt me out was the dysregulation, the chronic overriding of my somatic cues. Living most of my day outside of my window of tolerance, that's what burned me out. And this is the same pattern that I see over and over in women that come through Burnout Recovery Blueprint, my signature program that I work with one-on-one. Brilliant women, driven women, deeply capable women who were never taught how to succeed in a way that honors their biology. So today I want to share these 5 shifts that I would teach my younger self. Ones I think would have completely changed the trajectory of my early career and my early motherhood. And the good news is, if this is new to you, this is coming at the exact right time, right? You're not too late. It's not like too much damage has been done. It's not like your kids are, it's the perfect time. Okay, so let's get into these 5 things I would do differently. Thing number 1, I would define what success looks like for me. And that's the key right there. What does success look like for me? Because that back then I was thinking about what success looked like to the partner that I reported to? What did success look like on Pinterest or on Instagram? What did success look like in the parenting books that I was reading? What did success look like for, the 60 and 70-year-old attorneys that I subleased office space to? Because so much of my early career was shaped by someone else's definition of success. The legal culture, the billable hours mindset, productivity metrics, right? You talk about it, all the unspoken expectations. And here's what the science tells us. When your goals come from external pressures, i.e. what other people, right? What society, culture, extended family, whatever. When our goals come from external pressures rather than our own internal alignment, our nervous system operates from survival states. That means that we get sent into fight or flight. Sympathetic drive, we're hypervigilant, performance anxiety, you name it. Our brain becomes more concerned with perception than purpose. Woo-hoo! Our brain becomes more concerned with perception than purpose. And this was me for the longest time. The cost to that is enormous, you guys. Our cortisol levels increase. Our executive function decreases. We have diminished clarity, right? We're not feeling as creative. Chronic tension in our body and our muscles. It's hard to recover after stress. And success becomes something that we're chasing rather than a choice that we're making. So if I were starting over, I would slow down. And I would slow down long enough to ask myself, like, hey, what do I actually want? Right? What matters to me? What do I want to feel at work, right? How do I want to feel? Who do I want to be through the process? And thankfully, by the grace of God, I finally got to a place where I was like, hey, who do I actually want to be? And that was the transition that led to me slowly, right? Downshifting in the law firm, taking on fewer law clients, and eventually last year, closing the doors to my law practice and growing this coaching business and the podcast and my group programs, because that's what I actually want, right? That's what matters to me. It's what lights me up, being with you guys, teaching you guys this stuff. It's what lights me up. It's how I want to feel in my work, life-giving, energy-giving, right? It lights my soul on fire. I want to be a woman who lives like that and feels like that through the process. I didn't get that at first. And this is one of the very first things we do inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint. We start defining things through the lens of our nervous system, right? We take a look at your values. We take a look at your goals. We take a look at how that shapes your boundaries and your actual capacity. So that's the first thing I would have done. I would have started to ask myself questions sooner, and be like, hey, what does success mean for me? What are the things that I actually care about? And what are the things I'm doing because I just think I should, right? I think that's what smart, successful women do. And I'm going to do them because of that. It doesn't work. The second thing I do differently if I had to start over is that I would say no. I would say no more frequently. I would say no faster. I would say no to almost everything. No would be my default. And I think if you remember nothing else from this episode, this is probably the thing that's going to make the biggest difference for you. Say no. Say no. Let it be your automatic, because that will exponentially grow your margin and time for the things that are true yeses for you. Because back then, my yes to almost everything was automatic. That was my default. And it wasn't thoughtful, and surely wasn't aligned. It wasn't intentional. It was just a stress response, right? Women, and I'll talk about women because I think it's different for men, but women in a fawn response, people pleasing, we say yes to avoid disappointing anyone. We say yes because we want to be seen as capable, as a team player, right? Even when the cost is internal. And the neuroscience on this is pretty clear, you guys. Every yes that we say, that's actually a no. The things that we know we don't have the bandwidth for, the things that we don't want to do, the things that we say yes to out of obligation or fear of disappointing anyone, that increases our cognitive load. That is exhausting. And indecision in and of itself, right? Should I? Shouldn't I? I know I should. I feel like I should. They're going to expect me to, but I don't want to. That spikes our anxiety. But when we can set boundaries, even delayed boundaries, there's still boundaries, but they cost us exponentially more energy, and they keep our nervous system in a loop of anticipatory stress, right? I'll get back to them next week. That's stressful. Commitments we don't actually want drain our energy before they even begin. So if I could start over, yes would be my rare response. I would keep that so preciously close to me. And my no's would be my default. No, thank you. No, I can't take that on. No, I'm not taking on new clients right now. No, I don't practice that type of law. No, I don't. Right. And I would refer out so much more. That's, when I was practicing law, but even in my personal life too, my no would just be quicker to come. I would say it faster, not because I'm unkind, but because I now understand that my capacity is worth protecting. And a quick no has been one of the most powerful nervous system strategies for me in the last few years. And I wish I would have known that sooner. Okay, the third thing I do differently is I would have a daily practice of regulating my nervous system. Not some big long thing, especially when I had young kids. I mean, my kids are still fairly young, but when I had babies and toddlers, I could have still done this. I just didn't even know it existed, right? I was just overriding every symptom of dysregulation. I was the queen of the override. If I was feeling anxious, I would just get busier, right? I'll just power through. If I was feeling exhausted, which I often was, then it was more caffeine. If I was feeling overstimulated, I would just go faster and push harder. Maybe I was feeling really disconnected and I was just spacing out and zoning out. Then I would have to work more and force myself to focus and get stuff done. And anytime my body was communicating with me, in my mind, that was annoying. That was an inconvenience, right? And what I didn't understand is that my nervous system, it was and it is my capacity. My capacity to do high quality work, to show up as my best self for my family and my community and my clients is directly correlated to the regulation of my nervous system. Regulation is not indulgence. It is one of the most strategic things I've done. Even if I had known back then to just do 5 minutes a day, right? 5 minutes of the somatic tools we teach inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint. Maybe it's breath work. Maybe it's shaking. Maybe it's heel drops. Maybe it's tapping, whatever. Just a few minutes a day if I had done it right in the morning while I was nursing the baby, right? End of the day, over my meal breaks, that would have lowered my cortisol levels. I would have slept so much better. It would have improved my emotional tolerance. I wouldn't have been so edgy and irritable. It would have stabilized my window of tolerance, right? I wouldn't have felt like Superwoman one day and then hard to get out of bed the next day. It would have sharpened my executive function. I would have been so much more effective and efficient at work. I would have made better decisions. I would have communicated better. I would have strategized better. My creativity would have exploded, right? My reactivity would have been reduced. I would have had so much more clarity. And that's why inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint, I teach you guys daily micro-regulation tools. We have a whole library, somatic toolkit, somatic regulation library of different body-based practices, because having a couple of these in your toolbox, guys, is one of the foundations that we build your entire capacity on. So if I was starting over in my work life as a mom, I wouldn't wait until I was so overwhelmed to do something regulating. I would have understood, hey, do I experience stress daily? Yes. Then I need to have a way to discharge stress out of my body daily, right? In and out, in and out. It's good hygiene every day. And I would have been able to regulate to prevent the overwhelm and gotten ahead of it instead of always letting it get the best of me and then trying to do what I could to catch up. And then number 4, the fourth thing I do differently if I had to start over in my career as a working mom is that instead of just tracking my time, I would have tracked my energy. Now, when I first started practicing law, I worked at a defense law firm. That meant we had billable hours. So my time was kept in sixths of an hour, so 15-minute increments. Every 15 minutes of my day, from the moment I got to my desk in my law practice to the moment I left and went home, back then, this is 15 years ago, I had a sheet of paper on my desk and I would track my time in 15-minute increments, what I was working on, when I went to the bathroom, when I had lunch, right? I lived by time blocks. I lived by productivity apps. I lived by to-do lists. Everything was color-coded in my calendar. And guess what? I still felt behind. I still felt rushed. I still felt depleted. There was things that I would dread that would take forever. Because y'all, if you're still tracking your time like this, time is not your true constraint. We all have 24 hours in a day, right? We've heard that. Sometimes I roll my eyes when I hear that, but it's the truth because some people use that time so differently, right? We're not talking Chronos time here, just like 15-minute increments. I'm talking about how can we expand and contract time. Kairos time, depending on whether something is energy draining or energy giving. Time is not your true constraint. Energy is. And your energy fluctuates on the state of your nervous system, right? Your energy is dependent on what are your cortisol rhythms, right? What are your sleep cycles? What are your glucose levels? What are your hormonal shifts, emotional load, sensory input? All of these different things affect our energy. So if you're not tracking your energy and you're ignoring all these variables, y'all, I don't care how good you are at quote unquote time management. It's a losing game. And I did not get this for the longest time. But when you start to track your energy, notice when you have focus, right? Notice when you feel really good and energized and like in flow. Notice when your mood is awesome. Notice when you're feeling a little bit tired, exhausted, when you feel disconnected. Notice when you need grounding. Maybe you feel anxious or worried about something. Notice when you need a break. When you start to notice and track your energy, everything becomes more sustainable. And this is one of the tools that I think women love most inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint. It's just understanding the why, right? Why does the morning always feel so exhausting and I wake up like already ticked off before anything even happens, right? Why is it by the time I get to work, I can feel like my heart's already racing and my muscles are already tight and tense, and the rest of the day just feels so like I just drudgery, right? How do I change this? How do I start to work with my biology instead of against it? And if I were starting over, I would ditch all the lies of like productivity, hustle culture, time management, time optimization, all that, which is secondary. And I would first prioritize energetic stewardship because learning how to increase my capacity because of the state of my nervous system and tracking my energy is truly how I got to a place of feeling like I use my time well. And then finally, the fifth thing I'd do if I started over in my career as a working mom is I would have invested in aligned mentorship much sooner. Man, pre-pandemic, I just didn't really know, and maybe it didn't even exist as much. So like, I'll give myself some credit here, but I didn't know anything about the coaching world. I didn't know anything about having a coach, a life coach, a mentor, someone who could teach me the things that I needed to know. So instead of me growing in this like really linear, like little by little thing, I could grow at light speed. I could 10x my growth. And if I could sit down with my younger self, that's one of the things that I tell her, like, you don't have to outwork what you actually need support for. You don't have to do this and figure this out on your own. There are people ahead of you who will teach you, and you can learn from their mistakes and you can collapse time, right? Instead of this taking you 5 years to figure out on your own and like piecemeal all these different puzzle pieces together, you can go to someone and pay them and they can collapse time for you. They can teach you this in 6 weeks, right? And for years, I didn't understand any of that. And I thought I had to figure this all out on my own. So I was just hustling, y'all. I was working and I was trying to outwork my stress and outwork my dysregulation and outwork my exhaustion and outwork the invisible load. But you can't outwork your nervous system. Not going to happen. The science is so clear on this. Co-regulation accelerates growth, and being guided by someone with a regulated nervous system will expand your capacity to hold pressure, to hold stress, to make decisions, to recover. Support is efficiency. And it's one of the core reasons why Burnout Recovery Blueprint even exists, you guys, to give you the clarity and the strategy and the regulated support that I really needed when I was in the depth of burnout and feeling super dysregulated. So if I were starting over, I would for sure, I'll now, like a promise I've made to myself is I will always have a coach or a mentor in some capacity or another, right? Always. As long as I am a coach, I will have a coach because I believe in it so much and I want to be in integrity with that. I want to invest in aligned mentorship and I want to do it before I'm at my breaking point and before I'm so frustrated and before everything feels urgent, and I want to stay ahead of it. So here's what I want you to hear today is that you don't have to choose between being ambitious and getting things done and being a high achiever, doing things well and being well. You don't have to choose between those two. You're allowed to build something meaningful without burning yourself out in the process. You can work with your body instead of against it. You can redefine success in a way that honors you and your values and your capacity and your season. And none of it means lowering your standards, right? None of it means like having to say no to things that you really want to do and are really important to you. It doesn't mean you can never have fun again or make a ton of money. It just means you're going to live in alignment. And if you relate to any of this, if any part of this episode felt like a mirror for you or relief, or you're curious about a different way forward, it's exactly the work that we're doing inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint. It's not just about recovering from burnout. It's about rebuilding a way of life. It's about leading in a way, yourself and others, in a way that's actually sustainable. And the next cohort opens in January. I would love to support you through that transformation because your ambition is welcome in Burnout Recovery Blueprint. Your excellence is welcome in Burnout Recovery Blueprint. But more than anything, it's your humanity, right? Your body, your nervous system. They aren't the problem. You just need a better strategy, a different strategy. All right, y'all. I hope this was helpful. Believing that it was. Thanks so much for spending some good time with me today. I love y'all. I'll talk to you soon.
If you love Mommy's Polygraphs, leave a review.
Thanks for listening to Alive and Well. If today's episode resonated, would you do me a favor? Take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star rating and short review. It really helps to get this show out to other people just like you who could also use the information in this podcast. And if you're ready to take the next step in regulating your nervous system, download my free Nervous System Reset Guide. It's linked right in the show notes. Inside, you'll find simple, body-based practices to help you feel more clear, calm, and connected starting today. Make sure you're following the show so you don't miss out on what's coming next, because you were made to thrive. Fully alive, fully present, and fully well. I'll see you soon.